Even though Michigan had two of the most impressive wins in all of college football in 2024, CBS Sports is not that high on Sherrone Moore. So we're going to get after CBS Sports on this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Wednesday. We are back and doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Holt, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. Big thank you to all of those who make this show your first listen, to all of you everydayers who listen to the show every single day. We do appreciate you, and we thank you so much. We're going to talk about a couple different things. First and foremost, CBS Sports released not its top 25 head coaches, but 68 to 29 or something like that. I don't have the exact number in front of me. Kind of the upper mid-tier college football coaches. Sherrone Moore, not ranked super high. Then we're going to get into some comments made by Evan Link on the In the Trenches podcast today. I think he said some really interesting things about the offense, namely the pass game. So we're going to break that down. And then we're going to get into, I know the facetious comments, but Matt Rhule from Nebraska is saying that the playoffs should expand to 40. It's getting out of hand, guys. It's getting so out of hand. Again, I know he's being facetious, and he's joking, kind of, maybe, hopefully. Ugh. But before we get to all of that, let's talk about the placement of Sherrone Moore on the CBS Sports college coach rankings. We're accustomed to seeing, well, for a while it was Jim Harbaugh not in top 25s, and then it was up in the top 25. But, well, you know, I think it was more like in the top 25, and then losses piled up, and then he was out of it, and then it was, well, he's in it, but how high can he be because he can't beat Ohio State? And then he became like the third best coach in all of college football, according to all of the punditry out there. Sherrone Moore not getting that. I understand 5-loss season. I absolutely understand that, right? I kind of look at the hand he's dealt on top of everything, right? But he's 58th, and here's what they have to say, and we'll kind of make our argument from there. Says Moore was an interesting case last season, as nobody was entirely sure where to put him. On one hand, he had very little head coaching experience, which usually leads to a low ranking among our crew. On the other, he already had a career win over Ohio State. Well, now that we have a full season in the books, our panel didn't seem overly impressed with his first year at the helm in Ann Arbor. The 2024 rank, he actually dropped by 6 places. He's 52nd. The highest he was ranked was 49th, according to this panel. It's not that I have a massive problem with it overall, but there are some things here that I think are just kind of absurd. Number one, it's kind of looking at some of the coaches ahead, which we will do momentarily, that are ranked ahead. And that's not even the ones that are obviously going to be in the top 25. But I understand that you take the 5 losses and you're like, okay, lost to a lot of teams that, you know, whether it's a better ranked team, you know, like a Texas or an Oregon. Okay. I'm fine with you saying hey, you didn't win those games. And then I'm also fine with them saying probably should have beat Illinois, probably should have beat Washington. Indiana is kind of, you know, they're a playoff team. You consider that out of the 5 losses, they lost to 3 teams that were in the college football playoff, right? And then 2 that weren't. So, you know, you say, okay, those are two losses they shouldn't have had. Fine. But at the same time, beating an Ohio State team on the road as a 3-score underdog and beating a full-strength Alabama team in the ReliaQuest Bowl, I think should count for something more than nothing, right? Because I'm just looking at some of those who are ranked just ahead of him. Right now, my screen shows Sam Pittman, Arkansas. I love Sam Pittman. I love what is it? I can't even remember what his saying is. I just know he goes, yes, sir, after he says it. But go Hogs. I think it's not. I think that's what he does. But or Jake Dickert from Wake Forest, Justin Wilcox from Cal. What have they done? Right? What teams have they beaten? Because as much as you can look at the losses and sit there and say, okay, because I look at the losses and I look at it situationally a little bit different. right? Like there was no world in which I was going to come out of, unless they went like 3-9 last year. But like with what they did, I had higher expectations on the season, of course. But at the same time, you look at what he was able to accomplish, as in Sherrone Moore and everything, and you say, dead dove do not eat. I don't know what else I expected, because he had to scramble to get a coaching staff together. Jim, like as soon as it felt like, okay, they got the pieces in place, right? Like, they got Wink Martindale. I remember I was in Florida at the time, had my pre-write on Wink Martindale. All right, that's done, ready to go. And it looks like, Mike Elston, Steve Clinkscale, they're sticking around. And now they're not. And now you've got to scramble and do all these things. And, the quarterback situation was tenuous. Again, there are people who like to say like, they should have gotten someone in the portal and all of this. And as I told you right after the spring game, they did not feel like there was anyone in the portal, right? Because you had to look at the names. There were no starting caliber quarterbacks in the portal at that time either. Not that Michigan, in retrospect, had any starting caliber quarterbacks on the roster as it were. But still, they managed to win 8 games despite not having a starting caliber quarterback. So you could look at it, and I also am, working off of some inside info. I have a source, someone pretty close to it, as in within somewhere in Ann Arbor. Let's just put it that way. That's pretty close to it. There were a couple high-end quarterbacks that were inquiring about Michigan, and Jim Harbaugh said, "No, we like what we got," and then he leaves, which is kind of like, great, like thanks for all of that, Jim. Since you're not, he's pulling the Magic Johnson. I'm not gonna be here while making those decisions. So I think that it's a little disingenuous to some degree because no one had a better win in college football that stood the test, right? Because Dan Lanning beat Ohio State in Eugene and then got blown out in the Rose Bowl. So Ohio State being the national champion, a team with 2 losses who lost to 2 teams, I mean, no one had a better win. Michigan went on the road into Columbus and won that game. Like it that should count for something. Finishing on beating 2 ranked teams. You have Alabama who, until they lost to Michigan, there were lots of people out there in the media sitting there saying, well, Alabama should have been in, but okay. And then Alabama went out and told everyone that would listen, we want to play in this game, and we want to win this game so bad that our starters are playing. We have no opt-outs outside of the guys who hit the transfer portal. And yet, Michigan won that game too. That should count for something. This is kind of going back to what we talked about 2 shows ago about Michigan is the only team that doesn't get credit for when it does good. It only gets the negative credit when it does bad. You look at some of these others. I think Bill Belichick is aptly ranked at 54th because he's not coached in college, but someone who's considered legendary in the NFL being mid like that here. I think that's kind of weird. Brent Venables is 52. Jonathan Smith is 49, which it's like, okay, he did good at Oregon State, but he did terrible at Michigan State. So how do you rank that? Some of these I think are just so low. Like Billy Napier is actually way too high in my eyes at 45. I mean, you can kind of make the argument that he's getting credit for doing a worse job of what Michigan was able to do, right? He brought it says here, staring at Florida's death march of a 2024 schedule, and then they ended up going 8-5. So he's getting at least one more season. So he's ranked higher than Sherrone. But otherwise, he's not had a good tenure outside of, what was it, Troy? I can't remember where he coached beforehand. Otherwise, I'm just looking at a lot of coaches that either they had really good success elsewhere, but then have done nothing since they've gotten wherever. Luke Fickell, obviously that he did a great job doing what he did at Cincinnati, getting them to the playoff. But at Wisconsin, it's been bad, right? They've been missing bowl games. They've taken a big step back. So to me, it's just weird to see some of these coaches that are ranked so much higher. Like what win with Deion Sanders at number 33? What win does he have that is even anywhere close to comparable to the 2 that Michigan has last year? Right? Which point me, and same thing with Shane Beamer. Same thing with Kalani Sitake, rather. I know BYW was pretty good, generally. But otherwise, it's weird. Pat Narduzzi, tell me what win he has that's as big as Michigan's win over Ohio State. I'll wait, because you're not going to come up with one. Again, I'm not really up in arms. There's no reason to really be up in arms. We have to have stuff to talk about in May, and that's where we're at. All right, we're going to continue on here, and we're going to talk a bit about some of Evan Link's comments on the Michigan offense, particularly the passing game and Bryce Underwood. We're going to get to that here in just a moment. But before we do, the NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments, whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player. There's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game. Before tip-off and live, with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and to win big. Here's the cool thing. You can get $200 extra in bonus bets. Now, what would you do if you had an extra $200 and you sit there and you study everything and you know what's going on? You can use that to build a mega parlay. You can use that while you're tracking in-game to build something in-game, right? That's the great thing. What would it look like if you're combining your prop bets in the middle of the game based on how the action's unfolding? That's the great thing about FanDuel. So if you are new to FanDuel, here's the good news. You get $200. It's the perfect time to sign up. You can head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, some interesting things that were said by Evan Link on the In the Trenches. Now, I don't know when they taped this, because they might have very well taped this before, right? It's kind of hard to tell when, based off of this, because John Jansen put this out today. But he talks to Evan Link and Enoetta, and we spoke to them on the same day back in April. So maybe he taped it the same day. Maybe this is, I can't really tell. The content of both interviews is not terribly different than what we heard. But there were still some comments here. Again, I don't know if this is pre-spring game or whatever, that I think were really interesting. So the quote that I really like here, and we're going to read it here to you. Evan Link says, with these quarterbacks right now, I'm not even worried about the passing game. I'm not even worried about any of that because those guys can sling it. Receivers can catch them. We've been getting open. That stuff looks beautiful. Continues, they say the offensive line leads the unit, and I'd say that's true, right? Once we get back to that mentality and we get back to that we're going to, you can't stop us. We're going through. It's going to be a great time. He spent already some time, because before you start getting, all about the offensive line and they didn't look good, he gets back to, and he's very clear, like, we need to be back to that 2023 mentality. We need to be back to there's nothing you're going to do to stop us from doing what we have to do. Like, we're going to run the football. We're going to protect the quarterback, but we're just going to grind through you. You're not going to be able to stop us. Good luck. Like, that's where they need to be. And they said, like, they feel like they've gained a lot of that confidence back, reclaimed that momentum, all that kind of stuff. Now, listen, no offense to Jaden Davis, but like what we saw in the spring game was not great. I understand for you rival fans that love to tune into this show, concern troll, all of that, which I'm going to do a quick caveat real quick. Just peruse the comments from yesterday's show for those concern trolling, saying like, oh, you're just ignoring the obvious. There's going to be a bowl ban and, multiple year postseason ban. Michigan's getting the death penalty because of all the cheating. I'll say this. You're getting your news from someone who's making things up. And those who I'm talking to have been saying constantly that there is no bowl ban or vacated wins. And I'm not just talking about, like, my colleague Chris Ballas has been saying that forever too. I'm talking about people who are more directly involved. They've been consistently saying that is not on the table from the NCAA. You can wish cast it all you want. It's not on the table. All right. End PSA. That's why we didn't Why am I not factoring that in? Because it's your fantasy. You are living in a fantasy world. All right. Let's get back. Let's tangent back. And unfortunately, it's going to take me a second to remember exactly where I left off. But I wanted to make that point in this show. So I understand that maybe, speaking of wish casting, that's some wish casting by Evan Link. That, okay, we have the mentality. We want to do this. Can we do it? This season, this offseason rather, just feels a lot like 2021 to me. Now, I think they're in a much more advantageous quarterback situation, of course. And that's kind of where I was getting at. No offense to Jaden Davis, but like what we saw in the spring game was not passable. Could he be a better option than what Michigan was trotting out there last year if push comes to shove? Maybe. I think the good news is that despite the witch casting about Bryce Underwood and that stat line, if you watch and you see that receivers did him no favor, which kind of flies a little bit in the face of what Evan Link's saying here, like, oh, we're catching it. But again, he was not throwing to his main guys. That makes you kind of say, all right. I like the idea that he's in the mentality of like, we don't even need to talk about the pass game. It's going to be so good. Now, with that same idea, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me once or fool me twice, shame on you as well. All the while, shame on me. I know I've got it. I'm purposely trying to do. Fool me, don't get fooled again. What I'm trying to get at. I only know that from the J. Cole song, to be honest. I think that Michigan has tended to propagandize quite a bit, right? And I have a hard time always believing it, but I also know what I've seen from Bryce. Now, I will correct the record, right? I was wrong. I got this wrong. At least I was told I got it wrong. Connor corrected me because I had said on the Big Ten show last week that Connor said that Bryce Underwood is the LeBron James of football. He said, no, I said, he corrected me this week on this. He said, I said that he could be, but it is because he's got that type of thing. But football is that much more dependent on so many more guys than basketball. So understand that he also still needs certain things to go right for that to happen. But he does have those types of same attributes, right? Like football being an ultimate team sport. Can't throw all that on him. He just wanted me to clarify that. So I'm doing that. That said, I mean, they're in a much more advantageous position as far as the quarterback situation than they were last year for sure. Certainly, possibly even like going into the season, the only thing that he doesn't have on JJ is experience. He's already physically, I believe, based off of things I've heard, ahead of JJ. He can do all the things JJ could do. Now he's just got to learn to be able to process it, and he can already do things innately that JJ couldn't do. I say that as a JJ super fan, especially as a person. Like Bryce, I'm not trying to just thrust everything on Bryce, but then again, Bryce welcomes this. For those who will invariably be in the comments saying, like, oh, you're just putting too much pressure on Bryce. Bryce has come out himself and said, I expect multiple Heismans and national championships. You can't. I'm not even going that far. It's hard to win either of those things. But I think it's exciting to hear still, like, pass game, no, we've got that handled. Like I said, though, Michigan tends to propagandize. Hence, we heard, and he was a very good player, especially late in his career. But we were hearing things like Josh Ross is a faster, better version of Devin Bush. That just didn't end up coming true, right? We weren't just hearing it from the coaches. We were hearing it from his teammates. So I have a hard time a little bit here and there. So anyway. All right, let's get to the Matt Rhule stuff because I think it's silly. I know he's trying to be silly, but it's speaking on a bigger part of college football that is ruining everything, to be honest, in my opinion. So we will get to that here in just a moment. All right, according to Huskers Online via On3, Matt Rhule says that they need to make the college football playoff even bigger than it already is, even bigger than the proposed 16 teams. And the shark has long been jumped. Fonzie has left the boat. The ship has sailed, all of that stuff. Here's what he had to say. Said, the more spots, the better, man. Make that thing 40 and let's go, Rhule said, smiling. I think, again, you're talking about a league that we play 9 conference games where some others play 8, so I think that puts you at an automatic disadvantage. I know that they say that he's joking, and I do believe that's the case, but then he has the league thing. And to me, it's kind of cry more. I understand the SEC. That's a shot at the SEC, of course. And, they're playing some FTS game in week 11, whereas like most of these Big Ten teams are playing a real team. Not this year for Michigan. They're playing Maryland. I can't take shots at Rutgers because they haven't been on the schedule. I've got to take a shot at someone. So Maryland, you're it. Please don't be mean to me when I talk to you in July, assuming I do, in fact, go all the way to Las Vegas for Big Ten Media Days, Mike Loxley. And I'm not, listen, I'm not going to say anything about Josh Gaddis. That's not. Anyway, I think it's absurd. I understand that he is trying to be absurd. On 3 put together like a little bracket. Michigan would face, let me look at it real quick. Michigan would face Baylor and then Alabama. So assuming Michigan got past Baylor and then the same result happened, then they would play either SMU or Missouri. So SMU being a playoff team. And then if they got past them, then they'd probably end up playing Arizona State or Ole Miss. And then Michigan very well could have done a lot better, especially how it was playing late in the year if that was the situation. That said, I tweeted this. If only there was we could have like a playoff where, all these teams, they get 12 opportunities to be included here, right? You can start in August and you can have them play games more on a regional basis. These things that we call conferences. College football had the best, and it still does, but it's getting watered down, has the best regular season that is out there. Right? Because every week, every game was a playoff game. Every one of them. That's my point for you. This isn't a knock on the network because I love the network, Voice of College Football. But whoever you are, you Buckeye person who decided to take my comments out of context, that's my point about Ohio State and Notre Dame last year. When it came to playing the games in the playoff, yeah, Ohio State earned the national championship. I'm not disputing that. I'm saying that in past years, they wouldn't have been included. They would have eliminated themselves by losing 2 games. Heck, by losing 1 game, they might have eliminated themselves depending on what the field was. I preferred that because every single week you had to bring it. You could not be a loafer, right? If Michigan in 2016 got an opportunity to be in a 12-team playoff, and you bet they would have been in at that point, right? There's a reason why everyone was watching that Pac-12 championship game, just hoping that Colorado could somehow beat Washington, because maybe there's a chance Michigan could backdoor its way into the 4-team playoff, right? Given the way everything had gone, right? A 3-point loss to Ohio State and a 1-point loss to Iowa. Okay. So I think that I would prefer to be on the bad end of that if you are a team like Michigan, but then earn the ability to get into that 4-team compared to getting the participation trophy of being part of the 12th team. I understand how exciting it was for all those teams that never got to be a part of the playoff to be able to be in it. I understand that the first time that someone won the 12-team playoff, it was a team that would have been on the outside looking in the 4-team playoff. That said, the regular season and its results have to mean something more than just you don't get the automatic bye. It's just got to mean something more. Because the more that we do this, they're going to go to 16 and it's going to water things down more. If you think they're going to stop there, then you are deluding yourself. They are going to continue to build this thing out more and more because greed reigns supreme. They don't care about the product. They don't care that, and they also don't care about the climb, right? We talked for years about the climb. and Michigan making the climb. And it did it. It found itself on top of the mountain, right? It made the changes it needed to make. It went back to its roots. It swam against the stream by saying, we aren't going to try to overhaul our offense. They tried that with Josh Gaddis, right? They said, we've got a great defense. Now we just need this hyper dynamic offense, speed and space, all of that. It was a failure. Only when they were like, you know what? Ground and pound. That's what we need to do. We just need to beat everybody up front until they're bloody in the face. And there you go. And once they did that and they became a team that other teams weren't accustomed to defending, that's when they became very difficult to play in ways that they weren't before, when they weren't just having to out-talent people and had suddenly schematic advantage. That's when suddenly Michigan was good. They had to adjust to the field and get the talent and use the transfer portal in order to get there. And they did, right? Because some of those transfer portal guys, A.J. Barner and Drake Nugent and Miles Hinton and Ernest Hausman, all of these guys had a big part in winning the national championship. But so did recruiting and development, getting a Kenneth Grant and a Mason Graham. And then you still had the high-end talent, J.J. McCarthy and Blake Corum. All of those things played in concert with each other for Michigan to finally get there. Learn from the mistakes of losing against Georgia. Learn from the mistake of going in overconfident against TCU. And finally get there and have those satisfying wins. It would not have been the same if they beat TCU and then went and played Georgia. Maybe it would have been exciting to beat Georgia at its apex. I don't know that Michigan would have. I think they would have had a shot. They would have been more focused. But beating Alabama in the Rose Bowl, nothing is going to top that for a Michigan fan. I can't imagine. So you're taking all of that and you've made the Rose Bowl itself meaningless. How many, maybe I'm wrong, how many Ohio State fans are out there celebrating the Rose Bowl in particular, wearing their Rose Bowl gear? They had a Cotton Bowl after that and then more games yet. That sucks, man. That is the granddaddy of them all, man. I still love all my Rose Bowl gear. It was special being there. And it was special for them, I'm sure. But it's a different thing where it was like, well, that was the de facto championship for Michigan. And then you had the national championship at neutral site, and that was cool, but it wasn't the Rose Bowl, right? It's just a different deal. All right, that's going to do it for us today. We will do a mailbag on Thursday. So anyway, thank you for watching. Thank you so much for listening. We will talk to you again soon. Peace.